So in order to put some heart into our earth care, I want to offer some examples. These are real-world examples of people who have come to an experience of nature that's changed their lives, that's completely infused everything they've done, everything they've worked for with a care for nature. Now the first is Frank Lloyd Wright, the great architect, who was greatly influenced by his love of nature in all of his work. And he said this to his students. He said, "Study nature, love nature, stay close to nature. It will never fail you." Now, I've come to the conclusion that most of the great activists, most of the great eco-activists have done so because of a direct experience up close and personal with the earth. I'm going to give you 3 examples. Now the first example that I want to talk about is Aldo Leopold, who is one of the great conservationists in America, but he didn't begin that way. In fact, he had his experience with nature when he was out hunting one day. He was clearing the mountain ready to hunt for deer. And in the process, came face to face with a wolf that had just been shot. He managed to get eye contact with this wolf, and in that moment described a fierce dying in the green eyes of the wolf. And when Aldo Leopold looked in the eye of the wolf, he realized that something in himself was dying as well. Something in the mountain was dying. Something in the earth was dying when that wolf died. And it completely changed his perspective. And he went on to become one of the great conservationists in the history of America. So he had an experience up close and personal with nature. Well, another example is Paul Watson, who I've already mentioned. And Paul Watson had a similar experience. In the mid-1970s, he's out with a friend. They're in a small boat, and they decide to get themselves in between some Russian whalers and a pod of whales, convinced that they wouldn't possibly shoot the whales with these 2 human beings in the way. But that was challenged quickly when the Russian captain, came out on the deck and motioned with his thumb as if to slit his wrist and ordered the harpoon to be shot. It flew just over the top of their heads and hit a female whale right behind them. She was writhing in agony and dying. Just at that moment, a male whale from the pod rose up as if to attack the ship, and that male whale was also shot, harpooned. And as the male whale was falling back to die, groaning, it was almost coming down on the boat, and it would have crushed them at that moment. And yet it used all of its last energy just to avoid this small boat and to fall in a different direction. As it was falling, Paul Watson made eye contact with the whale. As he described it, he said it was as if the whale understood. The whale understood what was going on here, that we'd come to protect it. As Paul Watson said, this whale saved our lives, and so I made it my commitment to save whales' lives. Now, Paul Watson hasn't always been a popular activist. He's been criticized by his own people as well as his opponents because he's renegade, he's cavalier, he's a loose cannon, and so no one wants to own him. But as he says, so I don't do this for you, I don't do this for organizations, I do this for the whales. Once again, someone who came up close and personal with nature had his life completely changed and committed his life to the cause of marine conservation. And then a third example, Julia Butterfly Hill. Just 10 years ago, she lived in a redwood tree in California for 2 years as a protest because it was going to be cut down. And she actually achieved her aim. The tree was saved and many trees around it were saved because she'd come up close and personal with nature. This is something that Julia said. She said, I wake up in the morning asking myself, what can I do today? How can I help the world today? I believe in what I do beyond a shadow of a doubt. I gave my word to this tree and to all the people that my feet would not touch the ground until I had done everything in my power to make the world aware of this problem and to stop the destruction. And that's the type of passion we need. the passion of Julia Butterfly Hill, the passion of Aldo Leopold, the passion of Paul Watson. Whales might not be your issue. Trees might not be your cause. Whatever your cause is, whatever heart you have for the earth, pursue activism with that type of passion and perseverance and commitment.